Right now, you might be holding a drink, or maybe you had one this weekend. When you take a sip, you are participating in one of the oldest continuous behaviors in human history. It predates writing. It predates the wheel. It even predates farming. For a long time, the historical timeline we were taught went something like this. Early humans were wandering nomads. Eventually, they learned to plant wheat and barley. They settled down, built villages, baked bread, and much later figured out fermentation. In that version of the story, alcohol is basically a bonus level of civilization. It was a luxury that only appeared after we had our basic survival sorted out. But archaeological discoveries over the last decade have challenged that story. Civilization did not invent alcohol. In 2018, archaeologists were excavating a site called Rekhefet Cave in Israel, dating back 13,000 years. Inside, they found stone mortars carved directly into the floor. Analyzing the chemical residue left in those bowls, they found traces of wheat and barley that had been soaked, germinated, and left to ferment. The people using that cave, the Natufians, were nomadic hunter-gatherers who had never planted a single crop. They foraged for wild grains by hand, yet they were intentionally brewing beer. This pattern repeated itself. About 1,000 years later in southeastern Turkey, people built Göbekli Tepe. This is a massive complex of stone circles, featuring intricate pillars weighing up to 10 tons each. Moving those massive stones up a hill and carving them with precision required intense, organized labor. For years, researchers struggled to figure out why wandering tribes with no permanent homes would attempt an engineering project of that scale. Then they tested the large stone vats scattered around the site. The insides were coated in the chemical signatures of fermented grain. They were brewing alcohol in massive quantities, designed for large-scale ritual feasting. If these people were moving 10-ton stones to build communal breweries long before they ever planted a wheat field, it suggests a different motivation. Maybe humanity didn't settle down to secure a stable food supply. Maybe we settled down to secure a stable supply of beer. To understand why ancient humans would prioritize brewing over baking, we have to look much further back than 13,000 years. We have to go back about 10 million years to an African forest floor. When ripe fruit falls from a tree and sits in the warm sun, the natural sugars inside start breaking down. Wild yeast enters the skin, and a natural fermentation process begins, producing small amounts of ethanol. Our early primate ancestors ate that overripe fruit. The trace amounts of ethanol gave them a mild, pleasant intoxication. They had no idea about the chemistry behind it, but they knew it felt good, so they actively searched the forest floor for more. Over millions of years, this foraging pattern became an evolutionary advantage. The scent of ethanol led them straight to calorie-dense sugars. Our ancestors evolved a biological radar for alcohol to help them locate food. By the time early humans arrived on the scene, the taste for intoxication was deeply embedded in our biology. It was hardwired into us long before anyone ever built a village. This biological drive forms the foundation of a theory by archaeobotanist Patrick McGovern. He argues that our earliest agricultural efforts were driven by the desire to brew beer, not to bake bread. Consider the mechanics of the two processes. To make bread, you have to painstakingly grind the grain into flour, knead it into dough, and build an oven to bake it. Brewing is mechanically more straightforward. You soak the grain in water, walk away, and let natural yeast work. The reward is a psychoactive, calorie-rich drink. That immediate biological payoff was a stronger motivator to domesticate crops than eating grain in a different form. Evidence of this shift into deliberate engineering appears at the 9,000-year-old Jiahu site in central China. Inside pottery jars at the site, researchers found the oldest confirmed alcohol recipe in the world. This was a sophisticated, intentionally balanced blend of rice, honey, grapes, and hawthorn berries. The domestication of crops takes on a different meaning in this context. Early agriculture was an engineered system designed to feed an ancient biological impulse. Once that agricultural system was in place, it quickly scaled. By the time the Great Pyramids of Giza were being built, alcohol was a primary component of the Egyptian empire. The laborers constructing those monuments were paid their daily wages in beer, roughly 4 to 5 liters a day. It served as a base currency for the civilization. This was a practical utility. The brewing process purified the often contaminated water of the Nile, and the thick, nutrient-rich beer provided the essential calories needed to haul heavy limestone blocks in the desert heat. Its utility extended into every facet of life. Egyptian doctors prescribed beer mixed with herbs to treat infections, and priests offered it as a gift from the god Osiris. In Egypt, beer provided a safe water source and essential calories, while serving as both a daily wage and a religious offering. The evidence suggests a reversal of the traditional timeline. Alcohol may not have arrived after we built the modern world. It likely provided the motivation to stop wandering and begin building. And every time you have a drink with a friend, you are continuing a 10-million-year-old biological chain reaction. We have perfected the chemistry, the recipes are complex, and the glassware is refined. But the underlying drive is the same one that made a primate reach for fallen fruit on a forest floor. Our evolutionary drive for intoxication didn't offer an escape from reality. It provided the impetus to build the reality we live in today.